Final Fantasy XV is a game that I've refrained from talking about due to its sensitive nature within the community. By now, we all know about the development hell that the game has gone through. The original project was known as Final Fantasy VS 13. How's it going, everybody? My name is BruceN, and welcome to essentially Final Fantasy XV.
待たせて悪いな。もうすぐだ。
We first saw footage of this title surface at E3 2006. It was planned to be a spin-off of Final Fantasy XIII, which, for the record, is not that bad of a game. Well, I personally enjoyed it. A third game for mobile devices was also going to be made, known as AGONY 13. This was later turned into Final Fantasy Type 0, a game that was re-released for the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 with updated textures. The three of these games were to belong to the Final Fantasy universe known as Fabula Nova Crystallis. We were given an amazing cinematic of who we now know as Noctis Lucis Caem and his myriad of weapons cutting through royal guards in a dark city, all while the beautiful Somnus Nemoris plays in the background. The trailer showed us everything but gameplay, but holy shit was it eye-opening. This began the 10-year development hell of Final Fantasy XV. Something that was very off-putting from the start was that Square Enix wasn't very open about Versus 13 compared to Final Fantasy 13. We knew just about everything about the game, from its protagonist, the battle system, and the world the characters will reside in. This was all because behind closed doors, Square Enix was struggling with Crystal Tools, the engine they were using for Versus 13 at the time. This is one of the big factors that added years to the game. During a private press event towards the end of 2007, we only knew of the tagline, "This is a fantasy based on reality." They had only shown the game last year, so there was still time for the game to be released late 2008 or maybe even early 2009 at latest. We rang in 2008's New Year with a new trailer of Versus 13 at Jump Fiesta. The trailer they had shown gave us a look at Noctis' party and the card they traveled in. Of course, now we know Noctis' party as Gladio, the big buff dude that just oozes testosterone and has bro moments with the rest of the gang, Iggy, the mother of the group who cooks amazing home meals when they're on an adventure, and Prompto, the spunky gun-toting friend who just loves to stir up trouble. The mystery lady with magical powers that Noctis is seen facing off with in this trailer is Stella Nox Fleuret. She eventually turned into Lunafreya Nox Fleuret when Final Fantasy XV was nearing the end of its development. It was revealed to the public on June 4th, 2015 that Stella would not appear in Final Fantasy XV. Barely anything was said about the project in 2009. Another year, another trailer. Tetsuya Nomura, the man behind the designs of the characters at the time, said that he only had just gotten Noctis' clothes approved. 3 years later, and they only just now have official clothing for the protagonist? The new trailer that we were given came bundled with the Blu-ray for Final Fantasy VII Advent Children Complete. This version of the movie boasted an extended cut, a demo of Final Fantasy XIII, and almost 30 minutes of extended content. The trailer was unvoiced and entirely in-engine. At this point in time, Square Enix was entirely focused on Final Fantasy XIII's upcoming release in late 2009 or early 2010. The game had encountered various changes throughout development, as what we had originally saw was vastly different from its final product. This slowed everything down for the company. 2010 was one of the slower years for news for the game. Nomura mentioned that the game might have airships, which it did, albeit for a small portion. However, the main issue that worried many fans was when producer Yoshiniro Kitase said that Versus 13 might not exist until after 2011. Heartbroken, we received a short teaser of Noctis encountering what might have been real gameplay. This was the best thing for fans at the time, since it had just been about 4 years since we've seen something different from what they've already shown. In 2011 of January, Square Enix focused itself on the Fabula Nova Crystallis universe. Only one of the 3 games they promised for it had been released. Final Fantasy XIII was what the company worked on until the end of the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3's life cycle. The sequel to Final Fantasy XIII, poorly named Final Fantasy XIII-2, was going to be released in a year. AGONY 13, or Final Fantasy Type 0, found its way to mobile devices and eventually the PlayStation Portable. The trailer they had shown this year was huge. It was an actual trailer for the PlayStation 3 game. There was voice acting, actual gameplay. This was the first taste of the scale of the game. Unfortunately, where there's good news, there's also bad news. Some of the scenes in the trailer came directly from the Advent Children Blu-ray. Nomura himself eventually said that Versus 13 wasn't in full production. E3 2012 was extremely lonely without Versus 13. The only thing we saw was a sketch of Noctis from Nomura during Final Fantasy's 25th anniversary. Many fans feared that the game just wasn't going to come out at this point, miss the console generation at the time, or even get screwed up in the transition to the 8th console generation. Towards the end of the year, Hajime Tabata became the co-director of Versus 13.
なんだかめんどくさいことになってきたな。
2013 was the year where hope was instilled into followers of the game. Shinji Hashimoto told fans to be excited for E3 that year. During the Sony conference, we had seen what had become Final Fantasy XV. This was going to be the game that we see on Xbox One and PlayStation 4. New and old characters from previous trailers were revealed, all with voice acting. The game at this point was officially straying away from the trio game universe Square wanted it to be in, but there would still be references. The gameplay they show of Noctis running through buildings and warping off platforms was pre-rendered, of course, but holy shit was it impressive as hell. Looking back at it, it saddens me that the actual Leviathan boss fight in the game wasn't actually like that. We did see semblances of actual gameplay of Noctis in the city that was shown in previous years. Granted the extremely low frame rate, it was something that many were confident Square Enix could buff out since they're working on new hardware. Final Fantasy XV was shaping up to be an actual game instead of a project on the drawing boards.
世界は常に変化する。15番目だ。
Unbeknownst to most, Nomura left the Final Fantasy XV team and gave Tabata full control. It was made public early 2014. Nomura went to work on the highly anticipated Kingdom Hearts 3, which I'm proud to say, all memes aside, is officially coming out worldwide January 29th, 2019. Final Fantasy XV was unfortunately absent from E3 this year, but it did make an appearance at the Tokyo Game Show. The trailer that we have is essentially what the final game looks like. The trailer focused on the road trip aspect and its battle system. The trailer's final words resonated with fans as it said, "It's been a long time, too long, not much longer." Our first hands-on experience with Final Fantasy XV was in March of 2015. A demo of the game was released with the release of Final Fantasy Type 0 that was called Episode Dusque. This demo allowed for us to play as Noctis and friends for a short adventure. The demo was met with clunky gameplay and weird graphical glitches. This worried people as it made us believe that Square Enix was going to ship out this awkward mess of a build for the game. Tabata himself, however, reassured everyone that feedback towards the demo is a critical part for the rest of the development of the game. 2015's trailer showed us more story than anything, focusing on young Noctis and his father, Regis Lucius Caim. It was said that in March of next year, every question would be answered. Square Enix held an event called Uncovered Final Fantasy XV that March of 2016. The event showed the game's roadmap and announced that a lot of Final Fantasy XV related stuff was going to be happening. It spawned what seemed like an endless amount of spin-offs. There was the base game of Final Fantasy XV, the anime that gives us an insight to our main crew called Brotherhood Final Fantasy XV. They showed a replica of the car that Noctis and pals cruise around in the game. Another huge announcement was Kingsglaive Final Fantasy XV, which was the first Final Fantasy movie in a long time. To some, it was pertinent that you watch both Kingsglaive and Brotherhood before diving into Final Fantasy XV. The game was finally done. Its 10-year development hell was over and done with. We could finally see what 10 years of work does for a game, but not without one last delay. The game was slated for a September 30th, 2016 release, but got pushed back to November 29th the same year. Final Fantasy XV was released, but many fans of the franchise weren't pleased with how it turned out. I mentioned before how it was recommended that you watch both Kingsglaive and Brotherhood before starting the game. The game wasn't comprehensive with its storytelling without those pieces of information. All these questions while playing the game that would never get answered unless you went out of your way to watch these films. There's also the game's notorious 13th chapter. The game received various updates in order to correct the mistakes that were made though. An alternate version of Chapter 13 was made a priority, as well as a scene with Lunafreya and Gentiana in Chapter 12 to bring certain things to light. Square Enix delivered with its Season Pass content in March of 2017 by releasing Episode Gladiolus, which follows our boy's adventure when he goes missing for a certain section early in the game. The episode lacked content, but it did offer some backstory on him. Episode Prompto came out in June and threw fans for a loop. The majority loved it but hated the last boss. It allowed players to learn more about Prompto's backstory beyond being some fat kid that Noctis befriended in Brotherhood. Plus, we also get to see the second best girl in Final Fantasy XV, Aranea. Later that summer, we saw what I thought would be one of the most unexpected crossovers of the year, which was Assassin's Creed and Final Fantasy XV. There was also some VR stuff too, but VR is pretty shit and I don't really feel like talking about it. There is lore though, with the VR games. We also got the Comrades multiplayer expansion that was relatively fun. You were able to create your own characters and hop online and hunt monsters and shit with your friends. Episode Ignis was released and answered some of the game's biggest questions. In Chapter 9 of the game, the whole Leviathan scene from the E3 trailer happens and Ignis is severely injured during the battle and is unable to see for the rest of the game. Episode Ignis also offers 3 different endings, which I won't be spoiling because it's something you really should play in your spare time. Final Fantasy XV seemed to be on a roll. Multiple DLCs rolling out at a reasonable pace and eventually being ported to PC showed a bright future for the game. That was until November 8th, 2018, when Square Enix cancelled 75% of the next episode DLCs. A little backstory is that in May 2017 there was an update for Final Fantasy XV. There was an in-game survey that was conducted to figure out what characters in the universe players wanted to explore more. Players were able to choose from Arden, Lunafreya, Kor, Noctis, and Gentiana's expanded lore in the game. They were also able to pick other things such as Ifrit's betrayal of the gods and Noctis' family history. Arden was my vote because I felt that out of everything he needed to be explained the most. Unfortunately, due to the recent cancellation, the side stories they were working on, episodes Aranea, Lunafreya, and Noctis, have been cancelled. Episode Arden is still in the works though. All of this was revealed during a special livestream Square Enix held that also announced the resignation of the director of the game, Hajime Tabata. It was said later that there will be a Final Fantasy XIV and a Final Fantasy XV collaboration coming out in December. Final Fantasy XIV, if you don't know, is one of the MMORPG Final Fantasies. They also said that they're going to be releasing a standalone version of Final Fantasy XV Comrades. Both will release on December 12th if you're interested in picking those up. Episode Arden is the last piece of DLC to come out for the game, slated for a March 2019 release. Tabata is a man that I wholeheartedly respect. He managed to save the dying Versus 13 and turn it into something much better than what we were initially going to get. Trying to support Final Fantasy XV for this long came with some losses for the company though. According to a game industry report, these cancellations were brought up right after they had lost $33 million in the last fiscal report. Tabata himself didn't appear on the stream, however we do have a written statement from him. It's almost going to be 2 whole years since the release of Final Fantasy XV. I honestly believe the reason we were able to get this far is because of all you loyal fans. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Today, I have a personal announcement to make to all of you. I, Hajime Tabata, will be resigning from Luminous Productions and the Square Enix Group as of October 31st, 2018. I was able to gain so much experience with my time at Square Enix. Every title I was able to be a part of means a lot to me. However, Final Fantasy XV stood out from that group as it was a special project for me, which I went all in. Therefore, I decided to take this opportunity to officially announce my departure from Final Fantasy XV to all the fans who have supported the title across the globe. In regards to my next endeavors and near future, I have a project that I truly wish to solidify as my next challenge after Final Fantasy XV. For that reason, I have decided to leave my current position and start my own business in order to achieve my goal. As production of episode Arden continues and Luminous Productions works on new projects, I felt that it was time for me to hand over the torch to the next generation group of talented and trustworthy colleagues and believe that they will create something amazing. From this day on, I will cheer on and support Square Enix and Luminous Productions together with all you fans. I would like to thank everyone who continues to support Final Fantasy XV and those who have supported myself personally. Back in 2016, Tabata did speak of moving on from Final Fantasy and working on a brand new IP. The next project I want to do is a completely new IP. I think it's going to be a very large-scale project based around everything we learned and developed for Final Fantasy XV. I'm proud of Tabata for what he's done with Final Fantasy XV. He took control when it was needed and steered it into something greater than what the masses expected. Personally, I'm excited about what he's going to do in the future. I wish him and his team the best in their future ventures. Essentially, it was a series that I only thought about just comparing games. People have always asked me if I could do it with one game, and I never really thought about it until right now. I just want to say thank you for watching this video. I'm getting back to making regular content soon along with streaming. So with that, I'll end it on this note. Thanks to all of you who support me. I'd be nothing without all of you. I love you all. My name is BruceN, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.